That's definitely one option. There's the Crisco on the poles. There's those squingies, the slinky type things. All sorts of different ways that I've seen. But it's important to note that they can jump like 5 feet high and 10 feet horizontally, and so it's difficult to detract them.
Now, I've heard it on good authority that safflower seeds deter squirrels, or they're not favored by squirrels. What do you think?
So safflower is not favored by squirrels because of the taste of it. So it's a very bitter seed, and so they generally aren't attracted to that. Also, you'll see sometimes they have the hot pepper, cayenne pepper, and so that generally can work sometimes too. Just like with people, squirrels have capsaicin receptors, and you may like a hotter chicken wing than I do because your capsaicin receptors are different than mine. So that's true with the squirrels as well. So sometimes, and you may like more bitter things than I do as well. So with the squirrels, sometimes that'll work, but if their capsaicin receptors or their taste for bitterness isn't all that great, then they could still eat them. Generally speaking, that's a pretty good rule of thumb to feed those too. Mm-hmm. And birds have a very muted taste buds, and so they don't taste a whole lot. They really are kind of foraging with their eyes instead. So that's why that works so well.
I see.
Very cool. Very cool. Last question before we wrap up. As this has become an evolved part of your career and everything, and what do you personally enjoy most about feeding the wild birds? And you mentioned a whole bunch of feeders you guys have around the house.
Well, honestly, I wish I enjoyed feeding them as much as I would like to, but I'm often doing seminars and podcasts, and so I feed them and I don't get to enjoy it as much, but my son enjoys it a whole lot because he's home more. So I think that's really been the most fun part of this. When I started out doing this, and I started out in a store, I really didn't appreciate why people fed. And when I started to feed and I saw how my son would react to birds coming to the feeder and the enjoyment that he had, I think that's when the light bulb went off in my head. And so I think the most important part of this to me is the fun and the relationship that I'm able to have with my son in doing this, even above watching the birds. That's been the most important to me.
Awesome.
But you do realize that most of our public would give a major body part to do what you do right now.
I'm pretty blessed. I have a pretty cool job. I have a friend who is over in Europe and sells medical parts, and I was chatting with him one time, and I said, man, if you make a mistake, somebody dies. If I make a mistake, a blue jay comes to the feeder instead of a cardinal. And he sells high-tech stuff for a living. I sell fun. That's what I do. I sell fun for a living. There's no better job, so it's cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come in with us today. If there's any more questions we have about the difference in the birdseed mixes, with Aspen Song, do you have a website we can go to?
Sure. They can go to aspensong.com and visit our website there. We're in the process of doing some updates to it, so it'll be changing here as we move along. So if you see it today, it'll probably be different in a couple weeks. We are in the middle of upgrading that. And then if people have questions, I recommend that they visit one of the 3 Mackey's locations. We've done a lot of seminars. We've done a lot of employee training. I think you have a seasoned staff that can answer a lot of questions, and if they can't answer it, they know how to get a hold of me, and we'll get the answer for you that you're looking for.
Great. Definitely a passionate staff, and they love attending the seminars every year. So, and stay tuned because this winter we will be announcing the date and time of our seminar with Harlan. You'll be joining us in the store, and it'll be a great night, especially when we get the visuals up and and then everybody's sharing their different experiences of what you mentioned. It's a big hobby of trial and error and figuring out what's working, and the weather can change everything one year, and it's always great to see how that changes year over year, and sharing those experiences together in a room of people who enjoy it just as much as you do is a pretty great atmosphere.
Yeah, we talked about how I have a pretty cool job. I get to sell fun for a living and all that. But my favorite part of the job is doing the seminars. You know, the reaction of the crowd to, you know, telling their stories. You know, they in the beginning of the seminar, people are usually a little shy, and by the end, you know, they're willing to tell their stories and share their stories, and I always get to see something new that I learn. Every seminar I do, I feel like I learn something because somebody brings something in that I didn't know about, and you know, I'm certainly don't pretend to be an expert. I'm somebody who has been selling seed for a long time, is now involved in the marketing and production of it, and is somebody who has come to love it. So I think the passion's there. Like I said, I don't think I'm one of these huge experts. I'm not an ornithologist. I'm just a person that enjoys the hobby.
Yeah, and I mean, you've definitely been around the ag industry, you know, both on the hobby side and you know, for most of your career. So I think I don't know, expert's a category I think we could start putting you into. So,
Ooh, thank you.
Well, thanks again for coming in. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for listening. For notes from this episode, check out the blog section of our website at mackeysinc.com. That's MACKEYSINC.com. And remember, where that is in which you love, that's home. Mackey's, where the home grows.